The neon sign of the Bluebird Grill flickered against the humid Mississippi night, casting pale blue light across the gravel lot. Maya James stood inside, wiping down the last booth, her hands moving in slow, tired circles. The clock above the register read 11:58. Just 2 more minutes, she thought. Then she'd lock up, head home, and pray her son hadn't left his homework unfinished again. Outside, the air was thick enough to taste. Summer's last breath clinging to the world before the storm broke. The highway was silent, stretching black and endless under a low sky that hummed with distant thunder. Then out of nowhere the silence tore open. Engines. Loud ones, a scream of metal and speed cutting through the night like a war cry. Maya froze, the rag slipping from her hand. Headlights burst over the rise in the road, blinding for an instant. Then impact, a roar, the sickening crunch of metal against asphalt. Her body moved before her mind did. She burst out through the front door, the screen slamming behind her. The smell hit first, gasoline, hot rubber, blood. Down in the ditch, a motorcycle lay twisted, steam curling off the engine like breath in winter. Next to it, a man sprawled in the weeds, leather torn, blood streaking his arm. The patch on his back caught the glow of the diner sign, a skull with wings, the kind she'd only ever seen on the news. Hell's Angels. Maya's pulse hammered. She hesitated for half a second, fear clawing at reason. Then her old training took over. She slid down the ditch, gravel biting into her palms, and knelt beside him. Hey, don't move," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "You're hurt. Let me—" His hand shot out, gripping her wrist with surprising strength. "No cops," he rasped, his voice rough as gravel. His eyes, gray and sharp even through the pain, locked on hers. "Please, they're not coming to help me." "They're coming to finish it," Maya blinked. "What are you talking about?" He coughed, blood slicking his lips. "No time." He glanced toward the highway, the wail of sirens swelling in the distance. "Hide me, please. You got a freezer, right?" Back of the diner. She stared at him like he was out of his mind. "You want me to what?" But then she heard it. Tires screaming on asphalt, blue and red lights flashing over the trees. Instinct screamed to run, to call the sheriff, to wash her hands of whatever this was. But her heart remembered another night years ago when cops had sworn her brother resisted arrest. She'd believed them once. Never again. She grabbed him under the arm. "Come on," she said, half to herself. "Before I change my damn mind." The man grunted as she helped him to his feet. He staggered, leaning heavy against her, the smell of sweat and blood thick in the air. They stumbled through the back door just as 2 cruisers skidded into the lot. Maya yanked open the walk-in freezer, the blast of cold air biting her face. "Don't breathe, don't move," she whispered. He nodded, eyes fierce but grateful, and disappeared inside. She shut the door. A heartbeat later, the front door slammed open. "Police!" a voice barked. Heavy boots hit tile. Flashlights sliced through the dark. Maya steadied herself behind the counter, hands gripping the edge so tight her knuckles went white. "Evenin', officers," she said, forcing her voice steady. "We're closed." 2 deputies stepped forward, their uniforms soaked in sweat, eyes sharp and searching. "You see anyone come through here?" "Biker, leather vest, bleeding?" She blinked, face unreadable. "A biker?" "No, just me cleaning up." The taller one swept his light toward the kitchen. "You mind if we look around?" Every muscle in her body screamed yes. By dawn, the storm had passed, but the air still felt heavy, charged with something that refused to settle. The world outside the Bluebird Grill was washed clean, but inside the diner smelled of blood, coffee, and something unspoken, like guilt had taken a seat in every booth and wasn't planning to leave. Maya stood by the sink, watching the first streaks of sunlight crawl through the blinds. Her hands trembled as she poured herself a cup of coffee, but she couldn't bring herself to drink it. Across from her, Jack slept slumped in the booth, his jacket draped over his chest, breath shallow but even. She should have called someone. She knew that. But every time she pictured herself picking up the phone, she saw Marcus. Her brother's face. His cracked lip, the way the coroner's sheet barely covered the bruises the police swore weren't there. She'd spent years trying to forgive herself for believing their story. Now forgiveness felt like a luxury she could no longer afford. The diner clock ticked loud and steady. At 6:30, Maya finally moved. She flipped the open sign to closed again and pulled the blinds halfway down. She didn't want company. Not today. Not until she figured out what to do. Behind her, Jack stirred. His voice came out low, gravelly. You always this quiet in the morning? Maya turned. You're still breathing. That's more than I expected. He smirked, the faintest trace of humor cutting through the weariness. Guess you did a better job than you thought. She studied him for a moment. There was something different about him now. Less menace, more weight. Like every mile he'd ridden was still clinging to him. You said you were framed, she said finally. By who? Jax exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand over his stubbled jaw. Sheriff Dane Collier. You know him? Her stomach clenched. Everyone in this county knows him. Then you know he doesn't like witnesses. Maya leaned against the counter, crossing her arms. You're saying Collier's running guns through the Angels? Not the Angels, Jax corrected. A few of us, yeah, but not by choice. He used the club's name, set us up to move inventory for him. Evidence that was supposed to be destroyed. I found out, went to his office, told him I was done. That night, one of my brothers wound up dead, shot twice in the back. They pinned it on me. Maya felt a cold ripple down her spine. She wanted to tell him it sounded insane, but deep down she knew it wasn't. Not here. Not in a town where justice bent whichever way Collier wanted it to. You got proof? She asked. Jax hesitated, eyes flicking toward his jacket. Maybe a flash drive. Had everything. Serial numbers, shipment records, names. I hid it before they came after me. She could feel the weight of his words settle over her like a storm cloud. If what he said was true, he wasn't just a fugitive. He was a live wire that could burn half the county down. Before she could answer, tires crunched on the gravel outside. She froze. Jax's head snapped up. Through the blinds, she saw it. A police cruiser idling across the street. Engine running. No one getting out. Just sitting there watching. Maya's pulse jumped. She moved away from the window. They're still looking for you. Or for you, Jax said quietly. She glanced at him sharply. Don't say that. He met her gaze unflinching. You lied to them, Maya. You think they don't know? Her jaw tightened. He was right, and the truth stung. The cruiser stayed for hours. Maya tried to keep herself busy, cleaning, pretending life was normal. But every time she caught a glimpse of that car through the blinds, her chest tightened. When Jeremiah came downstairs, rubbing sleep from her heart twisted. She knelt down, cupping his face in her hands. Just for a little while, baby. I need you to stay with Miss Carroll next door till I get back, all right? He nodded slowly, tears brimming. Is it about the man? Maya swallowed hard. It's about doing what's right. He threw his arms around her neck, holding on tight. Please come back. She hugged him close, breathing in the scent of his hair, that innocent warmth she feared she might never feel again. I promise, she whispered. I'll come back. But promises made in the dark have a way of breaking at dawn, because as the first light bled over the horizon, 2 patrol cars rolled quietly up the highway toward the Bluebird Grill, and Maya James was about to learn that once you stand up to a devil, you better be ready to face the fire. The sun rose slow and mean, a burnt orange glare spilling over the pines like it had something to prove. The morning was too quiet. No birds, no wind, just that uneasy stillness that always comes before a storm that doesn't show on the radar. Maya could feel it in her bones. Something was coming. She stood by the counter, a packed duffel at her feet, her hands shaking just enough to make the keys in her palm rattle. Jax was by the back door, testing his weight on his bad side. He looked rough, still pale, still bleeding through the bandage, but his eyes were sharp again, locked on the horizon. You sure about this? He asked, voice low. Maya didn't answer right away. She was looking at the framed photo on the wall, her and Jeremiah, smiling out front of the diner the day she'd bought it. Her dream had been simple then. A roof over their heads. A safe place to belong. Now that dream was cracked and blood-stained, but she couldn't let go of it. Not yet. I'm sure, she said finally. If what's on that flash drive can take Collier down, I'm getting it. And I'm getting you out. Jax gave a faint, humorless smile. You don't owe me that, Maya. She looked up, her voice steady. You're wrong. I owe it to every person that man's hurt, and I owe it to myself, for not fighting back when he took my brother. The silence that followed was brief but deep. Then Jax nodded once. Then let's ride. They slipped out the back, moving fast and quiet. The dawn air was heavy with the smell of wet earth and exhaust. Jax's bike, A black Harley, scuffed and scarred from the road, was hidden behind the diner, under a tarp. He pulled it free, wincing at the movement. The engine coughed once, then growled to life, low and mean. Maya climbed on behind him, clutching the duffel tight, her arms wrapping around his chest. The vibration of the bike buzzed through her spine, through her heartbeat. They took the back roads, keeping to the tree lines where the asphalt cracked and weeds grew through the seams. Every mile felt stolen, every bend in the road a question they couldn't afford to answer wrong. Jax rode like a man who knew death was somewhere behind him, just waiting for an opening. Maya held on tighter. About 10 miles out, the river came into view. Broad, brown, slow-moving, glittering in the morning light. The old bridge stood ahead, rust-eaten and half-forgotten. Beneath it, the oak tree leaned crooked over the bank, its bark scarred by years of lightning strikes and bullets. Jax cut the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. He limped toward the tree, crouching down by the roots. His hands were shaking as he brushed the dirt away. Maya watched the woods around them, her nerves on fire. Every creak, every crow call. For a long time, neither spoke. They just drifted downstream, adrenaline giving way to exhaustion. Then Jack slumped against the side of the boat, blood soaked through his shirt, darker now, spreading. "Hey," Maya said quickly, moving to his side. "Hey, stay with me." He gave a weak laugh. "Told you I was bad luck." "Don't do that," she said, her voice breaking. "Don't talk like that. You're not dying out here." He looked at her, eyes soft, the fight slowly leaving them. "You're tougher than you think, Maya. Don't let them break you." "Not ever." Her throat tightened. "I won't." He tried to smile but couldn't hold it. His gaze drifted toward the sunrise, spilling gold over the river. "Guess this is a hell of a view to go out on." Jack's no, but his hand went still in hers. His eyes didn't close, they just lost their fire. Maya sat there for a long time, the boat drifting silent under the morning light. The flash drive rested in her lap, smeared with his blood. Somewhere upstream, sirens echoed faintly through the trees. She wiped her face, straightened her shoulders, and looked ahead. There was no going back. Not after this. She was a witness now. A fugitive. A woman with the truth and a dead man's promise to keep. And as the river carried her toward the unknown, Maya James made a vow in the quiet, cold and certain as the water around her. If the world was going to burn, she'd be the one to light the match. The river carried her until the water turned from brown to black, deep delta water, silent and slow. The world had gone still again, save for the hum of the motor and the whisper of cypress leaves dragging across the current. Maya's hands were stiff on the tiller, her knuckles white. She hadn't realized how cold she was until she saw them trembling. Her jeans were soaked through, her arms streaked with dried blood. Jax's blood. It had dried like rust, heavy and human. The flash drive sat on the seat beside her, small and quiet. It looked harmless. A speck of plastic that could topple men like Collier, that could make her a ghost or a hero, depending on who found her first. For a while, she thought about just throwing it in the river, ending it right there, but then she saw Jax again in her mind, his face as he fell, that final half-smile like he knew she'd have to carry it now. She couldn't let that die. Not for him. Not for Marcus. By late morning, she reached the bayou mouth where the water widened and met the Gulf. The sun was hot again, baking the last of the rain off the land. The air smelled of salt and oil and something like freedom. She pulled the boat toward a small dock that looked half-abandoned. Old shrimp nets hung like ghosts, the wood silvered and splintered by time. A sign swung crooked over the shack nearby. Ray's Marina. Cold beer, hot ice. Maya tied off the boat, climbed onto the dock, and felt the weight of solid ground